Hello, everybody. We are doing our second installment of the Inside Scoop. And today I've got guest Joyce Feustel with us, who is LinkedIn guru and other social media guru, but LinkedIn I think is really her sweet spot. And I wanted to talk about LinkedIn because I believe there's so much potential that people aren't using with LinkedIn and promoting their business. And so I've got some questions for Joyce, and she's going to enrich us and get us all fired up. So we will hopefully get busy and start using LinkedIn more. So Joyce, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. And I wanted to give you a few minutes to just introduce yourself.
Oh, sure. So I don't always lead with this, but something tells me to say that I'm 72 years old. And people go like, what? No, I thought you were 60, like younger than you even there. So at any rate, I am so happy to be doing what I'm doing. I have been running this business for 8 years full time. So that's back to 2013 when I was 64, of course. And I got the idea even a few years before that from my manager. What a perceptive manager. When he saw that I was good at explaining social media to our clients as we were revving up social media back in the early 2010s, this would be 2010, 11, 12. He said, Joyce, hey, since you're good at getting our clients on board with social media, have you ever thought of helping people in your baby boomer age group to understand social media like you do? I'm like, oh, gosh, I think you just
what an idea.
Annoying the heck out of my husband when I finally retire. So I've been doing this business just full tilt. I really am so happy. I have a granddaughter in Vermont. And I wish he was here, but sometimes it's easier just to go ahead and say, oh, hi, on FaceTime, like, how are you doing, honey? So that's LinkedIn has evolved over the years to be really my not quite exclusive social media site, but last year, 88% of my 100-some clients, what did we do? We did LinkedIn. Business owners, primarily, job seekers, of course, they're going to need LinkedIn always. Right. That's about 20% of my business. But a lot of business owners don't think LinkedIn, and they really should be.
Yep. Perfect. And so Joyce may not know it, but she segued exactly into our first question. So I've got some questions that's, related to the business and how, this is going to help your business out. And so my first question is, do you agree with me that LinkedIn is underutilized in promoting your business? And if so, why do you think that is?
I think a lot of people really are mystified by LinkedIn, curiously. Perhaps they only had used it when they were looking for work, and now here they are with their own business, and it doesn't occur to them to use LinkedIn because they never really got into it that much. It isn't the kind of site you go to just to like look around and what's happening. Did so-and-so have her baby yet? Like you would Facebook or Instagram, things like that. It isn't kind of the fun social media site. So I think that's a lot of it. And as much as anything, I think people sort of think they might do it, but it isn't on the face of it as a social site really necessarily all that appealing visually. And people, I think people just don't plan to go there.
Okay, that could be. And I think what you said too about it's not as fun. It can be, right? But it doesn't have that reputation. Maybe that's it.
Right.
It doesn't have that reputation. Yeah. Okay. So what would you say for a business owner are the 3 biggest or 2 or 4 or whatever biggest values in actually using LinkedIn?
Well, I would say hands down, the most important one is that being active on, first off, having a halfway decent or ideally decent looking profile is a really critical part to your brand, your professional brand, your personal brand. It kind of in some ways blend together on social media. So you can do so much with LinkedIn. There's so many different features of it that can help you with your search engine optimization, with how you come across, with the video you put on there, the way you write. All that is your brand. And then your expertise. You know things. All of us are in business. We have subject matter experts within us that we can share various little tips and tricks and trends, all these things. They fit so well into the culture, the language of LinkedIn. That's what people expect on LinkedIn. Not long ago, someone gave me a really fun analogy. I'm just going to keep using it. They compared LinkedIn, say, to the Wall Street Journal. I mean, maybe that's kind of extreme, or even say the Denver Business Journal. Here we are in the Denver area. or the business section of the newspaper on Sundays, as opposed to People magazine, just on the other end. There you go, right?
I like
But a
that.
People magazine, like that one, you aren't going there to be educated. It's like, oh my gosh, do you think Harry and William will ever talk to each other again?
Right.
That type of thing, the England princes, in case people don't know the reference. Yeah, to me, that's a lot of it. So at any rate, then the third thing is engage. Okay, so again, number one, enhance your brand. Number two, share your expertise. Number three, communicate with other people. Okay, so see, on Facebook, it's not going to tell you when someone gets a new job or starts a new business or is 5 years into their business. No, unless they tell you. It doesn't come up in your notifications, does it? No, because there's no functionality for it, right? Whereas in LinkedIn, you will know these things. You'll be able to comment on people's posts, and then maybe somebody will comment on your post you're not even connected to, and then you can make a new friend, so to speak. So there's a lot of interaction that can go on LinkedIn. That's really, it is kind of fun. It's lively, it's entertaining. Right now I'm following a gal who used the term geriatric millennial for the age to describe, I'm serious, to describe that group that's born right at the tail end of the Xers. So they'd be like born in like 80 to 85, and the older millennials. And she's got this little image with this iPhone on a walker that goes with her article. And oh my God, it's gotten all this traction. Some people think, oh, that's a terrible term. That's really bad. But I thought she made a good point, because my daughters are born in 80 and 84. So they remember before smartphones, they remember landlines, as opposed to the Z's, right? So yeah, I'm just saying that sometimes you really can hit a sweet spot. Well, not exactly totally sweet, but dynamic, very interactive kind of thing going on.
Right. And I think that shows too, when you were talking about the communication. So again, she's saying it helps you communicate your brand. It helps you showcase your expertise, and it helps you communicate with people. And marketing, we all know, but I'll say it again, marketing is just about building relationships, right? So it's like that communication piece is huge. And I've noticed that in a business environment, people expect to be reached out to and connected with on LinkedIn. Whereas if it's another social platform, they might feel like, ooh, that's too personal. Like, don't do that. Don't reach out to me. But on LinkedIn, it's almost like we expect to. Okay.
Now, I'm going to show off for a minute. What are these? Remember business cards? The business cards. I was at my first in-person networking event in over a year.
Wow.
14 months to be specific, I would say over 14 months. I have business cards. I invited all these ladies to connect on LinkedIn. Did I friend them on Facebook? I think not. Did I follow them on Instagram? Probably not. But they are totally cool. One of them, whose card I didn't get, had reached out to me. I'm like, oh, that was her name. Oh, thank goodness. Isn't that slick? I'm like, this is like 101 business networking. But and you're right. Got to remember how to do it again.
People don't feel as threatened by that. If you took all those people, if you go to an event and you take a bunch of business cards and you just slap them on your email list, that is not cool at all. However, if you connect with them on LinkedIn, that's completely appropriate. So that's where I think the different platforms have the different rules. So that's where LinkedIn, I think, is a really good move. So, okay. So for all the people that think they just don't have time, if I said, okay, Joyce, if I could only do one thing on my LinkedIn to make it better, what would that be? What do most people need to do?
You work on your headline. The headline is that set of words that comes under your first and last name. It used to be limited to 120 characters, but news alert, in case you missed that from last August, 220 characters now.
Wow.
See, the default would be something like, let's say if I just had like founder, Boomer Social Media Tutor, because I created my company like you did yours. Founder, Boomer Social Media Tutor, what does that really tell you? Not a few things maybe by the business name, but I have things like Baby Boomer Specialist, help making social media simple, easy, and fun, throw in a tagline, put in job seekers, put in business owners, put in LinkedIn, tutoring, training. See, these are all search engine optimization phrases that you weave into your headline and then separate them with this nifty little thing called a pipe, P-I-P-E, key,
The straight
K-E-Y,
line.
right? That vertical up and down you get when you hit the shift. Hold down your shift while you hit the backward slash. And that headline, when you go to connect with someone, what do they see? They see your picture, they see your name, they see your headline.
Okay.
The headline is critical.
Okay. Critical. I hope you guys all got that. Headline. Work on your headline. And I would say, I'm guessing, maximize the space you've got. Right? I mean, if you have
Yeah.
220, use it if you need it.
I think use it. We don't have to use it all, but a lot of people might want to use at least close to 220.
Okay, cool. All right. So speaking of using it all, if you're talking about the about section, and I know LinkedIn didn't used to be called summary and now it's about, or my backwards, but how many characters do you actually have in the about section? And should we be using all of those?
Maybe not. Yes, it is called the summary still in some places. Summary equals about.
Okay.
Back in the day before featured, I know we're getting to that, this about included the text summary and then the opportunity to put in links to a landing page on a website, a video, PowerPoint, things like that. They called it media, which they still call it down in the experience section. However, now the about is only the text or it is the summary. 2,600 characters is a fair amount of space. I would say depends on your audience. If you're going after very, very, very busy people who might just read a couple, 3 paragraphs, maybe keep it at that, really punchy to the point. One idea is to have maybe 3 paragraphs and then a couple of quick testimonials. Like take some snippets from your very best recommendations and put those up into your about section. Yeah, think about it. Because your recommendations, as important as they are, if you get a lot of them, they just kind of roll down and roll down and roll down. And who's going to read through, all those recommendations?
Right.
So you
and
can also
if you ask somebody for a recommendation on LinkedIn, they have to do it through LinkedIn. But a lot of times we get recommendations in other formats and they haven't gone through LinkedIn. So that's a great way to include those.
Yep, that's perfect. Somebody who's not on LinkedIn, doesn't want to bother writing a recommendation, you already have it as a testimony on your website. Yeah, you maybe don't take the whole thing, but you could take a sentence or 2 from it. You can also, I like to weave those down into the position descriptions too.
Great idea.
So if you got 6 or 7 of them, just kind of sprinkle them through the about and down into the position descriptions. Also, Lori, I like to use the first person voice. A business owner should not be writing in the third person like their website because it's a personal profile. A website is about an entity. This is a profile about you, the business owner, and the context of your business. And also perhaps a little bit about what you did before the business, at least a nod to that. So make it kind of a narrative. I often jokingly say, by the time I'm done reading the about section, I would just be so interested in you. I want to go out, which we can do now. Hooray. Have a glass of wine, have a beer. I'm from Wisconsin, so I mentioned beer, right? And therefore you should be appealing, intriguing, like, ooh, cool. She didn't start that business at 61. Very interesting. So yeah, just things that make you stand out a bit.
Interesting. And I would say from the branding standpoint too, the things that are all part of your brand story there's a good opportunity to showcase those, right? Where it might be awkward sometimes in other situations. So it's telling
for me with the baby boomers,
right?
Yeah, excuse me. I lead with questions that baby boomers will say. Do you even wonder what optimizing your profile even means? Like kind of playing to that, whatever. Are you feeling left behind by your colleagues? So I just go right after, if I can, kind of the pain point of those people born between 1946 and 1964, who are the vast majority of my clients. So I pitch myself to them.
Great. And as she mentioned, I hope you guys picked up on this too, that this is SEO optimized. So this is helping people actually to find you, and that's important. So great. Okay, so now you mentioned the featured, and so let's actually talk about that featured section. What is that and how can we utilize it?
Well, featured is kind of new. It came around in the spring of 2020. I say it was one of the good things that happened in 2020, a few things. And what it is it took from what used to be part of about, and it gave it its own section called featured. And then and LinkedIn gave us more options of things to feature. So there's 4 things you can feature. And to find featured, you go to the add section, little button up toward the top of the profile, and you click on featured and you'll see these 4. So the first would be LinkedIn posts. The second are LinkedIn articles. The third are links to say anywhere on the internet. And the fourth is be what they call media, which is a little bit of a misnomer, but what it includes, let's work our way back up. So media includes, say you're a job seeker, which is not our audience, but they would have say their PDF of their resume or any PDF that you want to feature, you want to highlight. More likely, I would think you'd want to highlight, say, a PowerPoint or a Prezi, something like that. You could also have a simple photograph that you had, or you could highlight a video. Standalone video that was, say, on your phone or just a separate, that you had. Then if you have, though, a landing page where the video is there, then that you would have as a link. Mm-hmm. Or if you had a YouTube video, we've talked about that. Okay. Something on YouTube, now you got your URL, then that's another thing you can feature. Mm-hmm. And then in addition, if a post, say, is getting pretty good traction, like recently I've had a post that get a lot of eyeballs on it, or a post where you're like, I was on a podcast interviewed by the Steve Dotto guy, who was like a big time techno geek in Canada, does a lot of technology education, especially for boomers and Xers. Mm-hmm. So because he's such a known entity, I have this picture of him from his LinkedIn, where I was talked about as the guest from when he interviewed me. So people see this older dude with a beard, obviously looking boomer-esque, because he is like early 60s. So therefore, that's another thing to have up for a while. Another one I have is an article that I recently did just last week about LinkedIn profile tips for the older job seeker. Mm-hmm. And it has a picture of me doing a training from a few years ago. That's at the top of the article. So those are all things you can feature. Things you think that really showcase you well, associate you with the people you want to be associated with.
Awesome. Okay, cool. We could talk for hours. Mm-hmm. Not only do I know Joyce and we could talk for hours, but we could talk for hours about LinkedIn, but we don't have that much time. So I just want to hit like one more LinkedIn question, and then I have a few fun lightning round questions for you. Okay. And so the last thing I wanted to talk about is this issue of time, because that's the whole thing that, how much time, I don't have time for one more thing, Joyce, so like how much time could I effectively spend on LinkedIn and still utilize it without spending too much time?
I'm going to suggest twice a week for about 10, maybe 15 minutes at a time.
Oh, that's not a lot.
No, that could be done. I calendar it, a little quarter hour somewhere. Then what you would be doing, you'd be doing the following. You'd be seeing who wants to connect with me, because you don't want to blow off a client, or like this lady, this vice president of the credit union that just asked me this morning after I talked to her briefly, would I blow her off for a whole week after just meeting her? I think not, right? So you want to see who wants to connect with you, make decisions around that. You want to see who has messaged you. I just came off a speaking gig with a leads group through the West Metro Chamber. The whole thing was set up through LinkedIn messaging. I kid you not.
Wow.
The whole thing, not an email, nope, not a text, not a call, all through LinkedIn messaging. So that's getting to be used more and more. Somebody might have introduced you. Now that's another thing that's starting to happen. People will introduce you not through email, but through LinkedIn messages. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. Also see notifications. I was talking before about who's got the job anniversary, the work anniversary, the business anniversary, the new business, the promotion. That's a good thing. You always want to check all those things. And maybe once a week, just throw up a little post. It doesn't have to be long, couple, 3 paragraphs, maybe. Like me, I can put a post up about my event this morning where I got the business cards. Yeah. And if you do a blog, some people do a blog like I do weekly. I'm going to blog. In fact, tonight, I'm going to write about my experience this morning. And then you can connect your blog post, the link from there, to a 2 or 3 short paragraph setup on your LinkedIn, and then boom, takes them over to your website with your blog post.
Okay. So you could almost make yourself a little checklist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Check notifications,
yep. Boom,
check
boom,
messages,
boom, boom.
check connections, and just shoot down through the list.
Very doable. It's so different. See, people think, how many hours each of us spend on Facebook? Let's just fess up, right? No, it isn't like that. LinkedIn, you can go and be very efficient on LinkedIn. A little bit of time on LinkedIn goes a long ways.
Okay, good to know. And I had even more questions that we don't necessarily have time to get to, but we could do this again sometime if Joyce is willing. And if you need tutoring, if you need advice, I'm going to be putting Joyce's contact information below in this post when I post this video next week. So we will have that. So I encourage you to reach out to her. Joyce also has a meetup that she does once a month, Simplify Your Social Media, which is awesome. And so we will have ways to connect. So we're going to close up today with a little thing that's a little bit more fun. And that is actually what we call the lightning round. And so these are a little bit more personal or just fun things. So 5 questions for Joyce. And number 1 being, what book, and I will now also say, or podcast, because a lot of people now aren't reading as much as they are listening. What book or podcast are you reading right now? Business, professional development, personal development?
Actually,
she's got something right there. LinkedIn profile
optimization for dummies. I saw this lady was going to be on a national conference keynoter. So it's kind of boring, but I learned stuff already in here. So by Donna Serdula, Serdula.
Donna
Serdula.
Okay.
LinkedIn profile optimization for dummies. Yeah.
I forgot all about those dummies books. Yeah, those can be really good.
Yeah, they're really good.
Very, very fitting. I'll say that's very fitting. Okay, number 2. On LinkedIn, what do you prefer? Videos or pictures?
Oh, videos are good.
Videos are good. Okay. Number 3, Clubhouse. Yay or nay? Have you jumped on that train yet?
I've got Clubhouse. I haven't done anything with it yet, but next week I'm going to be doing some sort of co-hosting, so I got to get in there. So I did say to one, I brought it up yesterday with a guy, and he goes, I've seen my colleague, maybe it was his subordinate, he's COO guy, spent way too much time on Clubhouse. So I think it could be a time suck. Then again, you can also apparently hang out with some pretty big time people.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing because I'm on it too. It feels like a time suck, but I'm seeing some people that are being pretty successful.
I might have to turn to you offline and say, help me, Lori.
We'll learn it. We'll learn it.
Yeah.
If anyone has things to contribute about Clubhouse, please do. Okay, number 4. What's the last picture on your phone?
Last picture on my phone? Oh, from this morning. Me and the lady in the mask. I think people can see that.
That's great.
Yes, that's the picture.
Very good. In real life person.
In real life networking. I mean, yeah,
that's
amazing.
Awesome. Okay.
I saw our shoes and everything. Yeah.
Real shoes. I know we have to wear shoes when we go to things, people. Yeah. Okay, last question. What's your superpower?
Getting to know people super quickly. I once picked up a client by standing behind her in line at a French restaurant in DIA. And I said, I love your backpack. It's so cute. And so it had a dinosaur on it. And so we got to talking. We sat and had breakfast together, and we're friends on Facebook. And she's used me a couple of times for help with her LinkedIn.
There again, I would say that is pretty fitting. So, thank you so much for being with us. I hope this has been helpful. I even took a whole bunch of notes while this was going on. So I hope you all are learning some stuff. And like I said, I'll put Joyce's contact information down below, and I encourage you to reach out to her. And here's a challenge for everybody, because we're talking about LinkedIn. If you listen to this, I would like for you to go to LinkedIn and connect with Joyce.
Yes. I'd love that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Thanks, Lori.
All right. Bye-bye.